Hey folks, this is Philip with the Everyday Fighter podcast. A few years ago, a movie came out that I really enjoyed. It's called Inception, and it starred Leonardo DiCaprio. Now, if you're not familiar with the movie, it's just really fascinating, quite a mind bender, if you will. And the premise was such that Leonardo DiCaprio and his colleagues within the movie, their characters, had the ability through some technology and through psychology to enter into other people's minds, specifically enter into their dreams. So they would get their subject or victim, depending on how you looked at it, get them to sleep. And then they would kind of concentrate, and through some method of movie magic, they would enter into that person's dream. And the whole point of it for them was that they could get into the person's dream, make such an intense experience for them that they would change that person's actions in the waking world. And that's the name that they gave it, is Inception, that idea of planting a thought into someone's head that they never would have had before. Really fascinating. But one of the things that was interesting about it is that they could actually take it into multiple levels, deeper and deeper and deeper. So it's almost like a kind of a where those Russian dolls where you have a doll within a doll within a doll. Well, they could enter someone's dream, and then in the dream, get them to go to sleep, enter their that dream, and then so on and so forth all the way down. It could get very, very, very confusing, not only for the audience that's watching this, but for them also as the characters in the movie. You know, they would just admit, man, sometimes I just don't know where I am. And, if you're in these different levels of dreams and in this dreaming state for a long time, it could be very, very difficult to realize what is the dream world and what is the real world. So you wouldn't know where you are. And one of the things that they had come up with, or at least Leonardo DiCaprio's character had come up with, was what he called a totem. And the way he described it is just something that you know is true, and it's a reference point from the real world. And his particular totem was a spinning top. So he explained it such that he knew that top's balance, that he knew its weight, he knew that it would move a certain way if he was in the real world. And if he was in the dream world, it would move a very, very different way. So that was the thing that he used to bring him back to reality. And when he described that in the movie, it made me think about times when I was lost and just in disarray, usually around working out and in class or sparring a lot. Definitely in sparring, where I am just lost. I don't know what side is up. Maybe through exhaustion, maybe just I'm going through things just emotionally. I'm scared of something, of getting hit really hard, or I'm just not thinking really, really well at all. And it took me a long time, but ultimately I found a way similar to what they did in the movie to bring myself back. Now, it's developed over time. I used to just kind of try to slap myself out of it, right? Just, as opposed, kind of like getting a splash of water or someone hitting me in the face, I would just kind of like talk to myself a bit, like, come on, dude, get out of it, get into the game or whatever it might be. And then just over time, I came up with the following mantra or totem to bring me back to reality. So, for example, if I am just spent in a sparring match, right? Just tired and I just can't even think anymore, and I'm trying to get my bearings, then this is the kind of mantra, the sequence that I go through. Say for example, I'm kind of disengaging from a flurry, right, with my opponent, my training partner. I come back, I have a little bit of distance now, and I go through 3 things. I say, check your breathing, check your tension, what's your plan? Okay. So first thing is the breath, and that just has to come. Sometimes it's easy to forget to breathe, or not so much forget to breathe because that comes automatically, but it's more of like breathing in an intentional way, breathing so that I revitalize my body, not just try to recover, but taking in really deep breaths all the way down through the diaphragm, all the way to, I tell my students to extend their belly, right? This is not the time to be self-conscious about your belly sticking out when you're breathing. So really consciously, intentionally take deep breaths in to revitalize, not just recover. And that's the first thing I do. Second thing, when I say check your tension, so I tell myself to check my tension, is I check my shoulders. That's really a lot of times, most of the time, that's where my tension is when I'm under stress. Now that's whether I'm at home or at the park with my kids and they're just going crazy, or even in the ring. And so I just kind of start moving my shoulders up and down and start moving them around, making sure that I release a bit of that tension. And typically when I start with my shoulders, then that kind of trickles down all the way around the rest of my body. But once I'm able to release that tension and get loose again, then I'm able to move more effectively, move in a way that's going to serve me as opposed to hinder me. The last thing is, what's my plan? Okay, so I ask myself, what is your plan? And that's the thing that gets me back in the game playing on offense, so that I'm not just reacting to whatever comes to me, right? Even fighters that are counter fighters, right? They're waiting for the punch to come in. And it's not just because they're reacting to a punch and then trying to follow up to their opponent's strike with their own strike. It's like, no, I know that when that person throws, they're going to be open and I'm going to take advantage of that opportunity. So even in those cases, they have that plan. So my plan could be just that. It could be, you know what? I noticed that he does this a lot, or she is open here a lot. Then I'm going to go for that, right? Or I say, especially when I'm working with students, and I'm not there to prove anything. I'm there to help them get better, right? So as part of that, I sometimes I handicap myself, right? So I'll say, okay, well, I'm only going to use my rear hand to strike. So, that makes it challenging for me, but also gives them an opportunity to take advantage of these openings and really be unafraid to engage me. So, maybe that's my plan, is like, hey, just use that right hand and do your best with it. So, it could be a number of things, but again, just asking the question of myself, what's your plan? Then that gets my brain starting to answer the question. Yeah, that's a good question. What is my plan? And it gets me back where I need to be. Definitely not thinking about how exhausted or how confused or how tired I am, but just back into the game to make it happen. So if you haven't done that already for yourself, I would encourage you to try to find a totem, try to find a mantra, try to find something that gets you back in the game, proactive, and able to steer the situation to your advantage, or at least make it better than it is in the moment, right? Now, this is something for me, it doesn't just stay in the ring. This is something that, man, again, there are times when I'm just out, if I'm working or I'm just dealing with stresses outside of the ring, off the mat, where I just have to bring myself back. And sometimes I just use the exact same mantra. Check your breathing. Am I breathing? check my tension. What is my plan? Everything that has happened up to this point is the what. What's my plan? Gets me to answering, so what? So what? What's next? Hope this was helpful for you folks. Again, this is Philip with the Everyday Fighter Podcast. We'll talk to you next time.